everybody, I'm Neha and today I'm going to be reading you the book The Dinosaurs Next Door. But before I get started with our book, I'm going to tell you all a little activity to do. So first, you have to pat your head. Now, you have to rub your tummy. In the same time, you have to pat your head and rub your tummy like this. Share your experience in the comments. Now let's get started with the book. Chapter 1, Mr. Puff. Mr. Puff lived in a tall blue house. Outside, it looked a little odd. Inside, it was even stranger. Mr. Puff was an inventor. His whole house was crammed with amazing inventions. His latest invention moved him from place to place in an instant. Before that, he invented a robot to clean up his spills. And before that, he invented the wheelie cup. But it spilled most of his tea, which was why he invented the robot. His new project wasn't an invention at all, but it was so exciting, he had asked Sam, his friend from next door, to see it. Sam had promised to come over after school. Chapter 2, The Eggs. At last, come in. When Sam arrived, Mr. Puff was bursting with excitement. He led Sam to his study and dived under a table. They have to be kept in the dark until the last moment. With a smile, Mr. Puff came out with a basket. Eggs? Said Sam, looking at the 4 big eggs. These aren't just any old eggs, said Mr. Puff. They're dinosaur eggs. What? Cried Sam. But dinosaurs died out zillions of years ago. How? Where? Mr. Puff looked mysterious. Oh, they were to pay me for an invention, he said. Just then, the blue spotted egg began to jiggle and jump and bump in the basket. A crack appeared, zigzagging along the shell. Then another and another, until finally a little green head burst out. Wow, said Sam. The creature stared at Sam. Sam stared back. Isn't it wonderful? Said Mr. Puff. It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. But is it a dinosaur? Said Sam. Was it possible? It did look like a dinosaur. As they watched, the other eggs began to jiggle and jump and bump in the basket. Their shells shattered. The eggs had hatched. The baby dinosaurs were very lively. They looked around, making excited squeaks. I expect they're hungry, said Mr. Puff. What do dinosaurs eat? Let me go home for my dinosaur book, said Sam, and raced off. Soon he was back. That one looks like ours, said Sam. He pointed to a blue dinosaur with red spikes on its head. That one eats meat then, said Mr. Puff. But some dinosaurs only eat plants. They weren't sure what sort of dinosaurs the others were. So Sam put out a large plate of cat food and a large plate of salad, just in case. It's my dinner time too, said Sam. I have to go, but I'll be back. I must be the only person with dinosaurs next door. Chapter 3, bigger and bigger. Over the next 3 days, Mr. Puff watched the dinosaurs. He watched them grow and grow and grow. By day 4, he had to invent an extra long ruler to measure them all. By the 5th day, he was worried. They're getting fierce. They just keep growing, he told Sam. Can't you invent something to stop them? Sam asked. That's it, cried Mr. Puff. He ran up to his dark, dusty attic. Tissue! And came back with a silver box on wheels. A yellow hose sat coiled like a snake on top. What is it? asked Sam. This is my sizo machine, Mr. Puff said proudly. It makes things shrink or grow. Perfect, said Sam. Does it work? Of course it works, said Mr. Puff. Ready, steady, fire! Chapter 4. Kaboom! Oops! Kaboom! Ah! It's huge! Oh dear, said Mr. Puff. Something must be wrong. He peered inside the machine. Ah, he said. I had my wires crossed. Try now, Sam. Sam picked up the hose. Ready, steady, fire, said Mr. Puff. Kaboom! The dinosaur vanished. Where has it gone? asked Mr. Puff. Did I shrink it too much? Sam looked down the hose. Careful, said Mr. Puff. I don't want you shrinking too. They shrank one dinosaur in the kitchen. Another was outside having a snack. Ready, steady, fire, said Mr. Puff. Kaboom! But where was the last dinosaur? Just then, they heard a crash from the bathroom. Ready, steady, fire, said Mr. Puff. But as Sam took aim, he slipped. The hose flew from his hands. Kaboom! Chapter 5. Shrunk. Fantastic! It works on people too. Starry smoke filled the room. When it cleared, Sam was in shock. He was smaller than the bottle of bath oil. It shrunk us as well as the dinosaur, began Sam. He heard a roar behind him. Run! I don't think it wants you to brush its teeth. Suddenly, the dinosaur looked at the door. Sam and Mr. Puff dived for cover. The dinosaur should have hidden too. If we could just distract it. Mr. Puff's cat was coming. She took one look at the dinosaur and chased it away. I always said she was a clever cat. Quick, said Mr. Puff. We must change to our normal size before that dinosaur comes back. First, they had to move the dial. Sam pushed. Mr. Puff pulled. It was hard work. Then they dragged the hose into place. By now, they were exhausted. Everything's hard when you're this small, Sam panted. Cheer up, said Mr. Puff. We just have to turn it on. But they couldn't shift the lever. I hope we don't break it, said Sam. Mr. Puff didn't have any puff to say anything. They climbed off the machine. What were they going to do? Chapter 6. Cat to the rescue. Just then, The cat jumped up onto the sizo machine. The lever moved. Kaboom! Clouds of smoke filled the room. Sam and Mr. Puff started to grow and grow and grow. They were back to normal at last. Now, what are those dinosaurs up to? Said Mr. Puff. The dinosaurs were running all over the house. Sam tried to help catch them. The dinosaurs thought it was a game. Got you! Cried Mr. Puff as he scooped up the blue dinosaur. Phew! They're worse than puppies. What am I going to do with them? Thinking of puppies gave Sam an idea. If you can train dogs, why not dinosaurs? Brilliant, said Mr. Puff. And then maybe you'd like one as a pet. They're very sweet. Thank you, Sam said, but I'd rather just visit them sometimes. I think I prefer my dinosaurs in books. Sam never told anyone about the dinosaurs next door or his narrow escape. But whenever he saw Mr. Puff's cat, he always took out a saucer of milk to thank her. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this book. And do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Bye.